you for joining today's webinar, Emerging Channels, Expanding Visibility and Reservation Potential. I'm excited to introduce our host, Tony Bonanno, President of GroundSpan, a recognized leader in the ground transportation industry. With over 25 years of experience, Tony has built and led multiple companies focused on solving real-world problems in corporate travel through smart technology and expanded booking access. At GroundSpan, Tony's mission is to help vendors like you gain more visibility and drive more bookings by tapping into emerging channels used by corporate clients worldwide. We're lucky to have him with us today. Please welcome Tony. And with that, Tony, take it away.
Thank you. After that intro, I might not have to say anything else. That was perfect. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. I also appreciate you guys including me in this session. I was looking at the participants, and I recognize a lot of the names. So nice to reconnect with several of you, and nice to meet any new faces, new names that I may not be familiar with. Josh hit it over the head. We're going to go through probably in your minds a lot today, but don't worry. At the end of it, I'm going to summarize it down to one key takeaway. But what I'm looking at here is I want to educate a little bit about the travel industry, corporate travel, and then where GroundSpan fits into it. And then we can, show some of the products, and then I'll give you a takeaway. So hopefully we can help you, achieve higher adoptions within your corporates. So with that being said, let's advance the slide. We got a lot to cover, as I mentioned. I won't spend too much time on this slide, but I'm going to give you a deeper GroundSpan intro, just so you understand where we fit in this world. A lot of confusion about what we do, so I want to make sure I spend some quality time on this. High level, we are an ally, not a competitor, and you'll see as I go through it. The other thing I think that's important when I do sessions like this is I have a visibility of the space that's same as yours, but a little different in some cases as well, where I'm talking to travel managers, talking to procurement folks, having multiple procurement folks on a call together. So I'm getting, these trends that I'm hearing and seeing that I want to make sure I share with you. I want to also talk to you about corporate travel in general. There's a lot of terminology, a lot of acronyms that people throw around like it's commonplace when it isn't for our industry. So I want to talk about that. We'll obviously talk about the booking solution, high-level commercials, that key takeaway, and then next step. So we got a decent amount to cover. Hopefully it's not too confusing. Like I said, I'm all about trying to educate, give you more info to start than you need, and then crystallize it back to kind of the key takeaway, the bottom line approach to, what you should hopefully get from this session. I wanted to introduce myself and Ketna. A lot of you, like I said, know my name probably or know me personally. Ketna's been with me for a long time, at least 15, 16 years now. Ketna's been in the industry for 20 plus years as well. Ketna, maybe you just want to say hi and give a quick background of yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. Nice to meet you all. Ketna Patel. I head up the implementation and support team here. I've been in the industry for over 25 years. I'm sure a lot of people on this call know me as well. So nice to meet you all.
Ketna is my right-hand woman, the brain behind the operations. And as we've moved forward, hopefully we set you up with corporates and travel agencies. Her and her team will be intimately involved in making sure that that setup and implementation is successful. In terms of myself, quick bio. I've been in this space now for 27 years. It sounds like, well, I guess I am an old man in some cases, but it sounds like I should be 90 with 27 years behind me in this category. All of the businesses that I've founded within this space have all really been the same mission, right? Ease of booking, centralizing bookings for corporates, providing better data. 27 years ago, it started with call centers. Obviously, as the world evolved, it got more automated. But if you look at my first business to GroundSpan, it's really a direct evolution of where we started. So I've been in the industry a long time. I've held senior roles, sales roles, marketing roles. I'm the president of GroundSpan right now, but very, I love this space, frankly. As most of you know, once you're in, you're stuck in this category. It's one of those interesting categories that's underappreciated, but I'm a lifer in this category and have really seen it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. With that being said, let's transition right into these market trends. And some of these may relate to you. I know this is a little bit of a busy slide. This will all be recorded and for your takeaway after the meeting. But there is a fundamental shift going on in travel when it comes to ground transport, right? And look, I have it even on here. A silver lining of COVID was it has absolutely changed the mindset of corporate procurement, corporate travel managers, where before COVID, obviously even years before that, ground was this unmanaged category. You try to talk to a traveler manager about it, it ain't broke, don't fix it type of mentality. That is completely shifting now to becoming more managed programs. Corporations are trying to centralize it. They're trying to connect all their regional vendors in one platform so they can leverage each market's procurement, whether it's, the London office setting up, let's just for argument's sake, the New York office's vendors and vice versa, or even within the States, within Europe, it doesn't matter. But we're seeing a lot of centralization. We're seeing a lot of travel managers approaching the category differently than they ever have. And I think one of the catalysts to that was definitely COVID, right? COVID kind of exposed a lot of travel managers that they didn't have organized programs, managed programs like they did with rent-a-car, air, and hotel. So risk management of these corporations comes in and says, hey, we need to make sure that we have the right insurances in place. We create a program where we're giving our employees ease of booking. We're giving them credible solutions in these different marketplaces. So risk management within these corporations has kind of lit a fire within the travel departments saying, hey, we need to have more organized programs. So we're absolutely 100% seeing this shift. Pre-COVID, we had to chase corporate clients. Right now, corporate clients are chasing us, learning more about what we can do for them and how we can help them, get their hands around their travel program. Kind of hand in hand with that, we're seeing the global travel agencies, and I'll go through some of those brands later. These travel agencies are now aggressively offering ground transportation solution. When I say ground transportation, I'm talking just about the chauffeur drive side. Travel agencies have always done the rent-a-car side, but global travel agencies now are aggressively offering the ability to help corporates manage, book, and procure their ground transportation vendors and help them run RFPs. So we're seeing not only the shift in the travel managers and procurement managers mindsets, we're seeing the global agencies and the online booking tools kind of staying in line with that thinking and meeting the demand of these travel managers. We are, of course, seeing this crazy price cost pressure build. We see it on the corporate side, right? They're looking for better rates, but we really see it on the vendor side. Perfect example is every corporate is looking at these EV vehicles. They don't want the cheap EVs. They want the most expensive, but they don't want to pay more for a car that costs 20 grand more and, can't be utilized as much. So we are seeing this cost pressure building up in a lot of places. And, it's really a good segue to what we do. We help vendors like yourself scale without increasing your overhead. So this is another big trend that we're seeing with the large, medium, and small vendors is how do we increase our transactions with our existing business without us having to add additional overhead, whether it's vehicles, staff, whatever that may be. So, we have a solution, we believe, and we'll talk more about it, that allows you to hopefully take a little pressure off your operational expenses by automating some of these bookings. But we're definitely feeling this cost pressure from both sides of the aisle, right? So the corporates as well as the vendors. We are seeing more acquisitions and consolidation. Some of you on the call probably know because we did press about it. Ground Widgets and GroundSpan, we got acquired by Full Steam towards the end of last year. End of last year, beginning of this year, we made the announcement. We are now part of the same family as the Limo Anywhere tools. So under the same umbrella now, we have GroundSpan, which is the corporate travel agency neutral booking tool. And then we have multiple back office systems within the same portfolio, Limo Anywhere, all the way up to Santa Cruz. So we continue to see more acquisitions and more consolidation happening, even on the tech side, like what happened with us. The other thing we're seeing is, Uber for Business is so aggressively going after corporates right now. If any of you've gone to any of the travel shows in the last year and a half, You've seen Uber for Business has spent a fortune. So Uber for Business is becoming very active within the clients that you service and others service. And we need to continue to bring value to these clients, like some of the tools that we're talking about here today, and solidify your relationships and expand those relationships. But we are hearing more about Uber for Business, not the low end, I need a car for $5, but in their mind, the comparable service level to you and even the higher levels. We're hearing more about that, in our conversations. So I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that. And then the other thing that I've seen is, in my global travels, because I'm hitting all these different shows and going to different clients around the globe, there's several new emerging networks, right? And these networks have been around forever, the Savoyas and the Limo Links of the world. But now we're seeing a whole new group of these emerging, and they're starting to have success. And they're really having success because their sales pitch is hitting the hot buttons of the corporates. They're talking about stuff that we're going to talk about today, talking about duty of care and safety and insurance and data protection. So these networks, nothing wrong with them, but they're reselling you guys and having success off your backs where you can be doing that yourself. And the main reason I see them having success is they are talking the talk that these corporates are looking for and hitting the target over the head. And I want to make sure that we educate you guys to at least have some of this terminology, some of this understanding, and some of these trends that are really starting to build up. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of input. Hopefully you've seen some of this. But honestly, in my 27 years, the industry, my cheesy line is it's moved forward an inch, it's moved forward slowly. In the last couple of years, it's moved forward a foot. So it's really picking up speed, but it's going to continue to evolve over the next 1 to 5 years. Status updates are going to become more relevant, all the things we're going to be talking about. So the reason why I wanted to do this, it then makes more sense where GroundSpan fits into, fits into this travel world, fits into your world, can help you protect and grow your existing business. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about before I get into the tools is kind of corporate travel 101. And no disrespect, if you guys know this, it's not intended to, I know more than you type of thing. But when I speak to vendors generally, there's a mass confusion of what a GDS is versus a corporate online booking tool. I tried to come up with a graphic that helps you understand that, or simplifies it to a point where we all understand it. So this little chart here, he's got your corporate client. Everything on the right is what we understand today, right? Corporate clients may be using your mobile app, maybe calling your call center, maybe going to your website. You book it, in your system, and then you dispatch it. So that's kind of the world as we've all known it. Different, channel mixes in there. Some of you may do more calls, less calls, whatever. But that's how we understand Ground being booked today. But now if you shift to the left side, let's talk about corporate travel in general. Corporate travel in general, 70% of corporate travel, and that's a conservative number. I've seen higher, upwards to 85%. So I'm going with the low number, so it doesn't look like I'm exaggerating here. But what's recorded is 70% of corporate travel is managed travel, and that's air, hotel, rent a car, really everything else in between. It's under the managed category. When travel is managed, it goes through a traditional travel agency. Sometimes you'll hear the abbreviation TMC. TMC stands for Travel Management Company. It's the same as travel agency, TMC, or travel management company. It's the same thing. For our world, it's the travel agency. But TMC is a very common used acronym that is not as common in our world as it is in corporate travel. But you may hear me say TMC, or others understand that the acronym TMC means the travel agency. But as I said before, 70% of corporate travel, and that's the conservative number, is being managed from a traditional travel agency, which is more of an offline environment, with a corporate online booking tool, or in other terms, an OBT or a CBT, right? So both of these managed solutions for all travel have acronyms, multiple names, so it's super confusing. But I wanted to make sure I kind of step back. We look at corporate travel generally, so these different terms make sense, but you got your traditional travel agency, which either can be called travel agency, TMC, or travel management company. Then you have the corporate online booking tools, sometimes known as OBTs or CBTs, corporate booking tool, online booking tool. So they have multiple names. That's where managed travel sits. These are emerging channels for ground transportation. Okay. This is where GroundSpan lives. We live in other areas, but this is the majority of where our bookings live. But this is the minority of where ground transportation today is being booked. So today you have majority of bookings going direct to vendors. You have majority of travel being managed, and you have corporates wanting to put ground transportation in more of their managed environment. And that speaks to the trends that I just talked about a second ago. So if you look at this slide, what we're really going to be talking about today is this managed side of travel, the ground transportation component of it. So now when somebody calls to make a flight, they can add a car service, not just a rent a car. Okay. So you got these two channels. You can see from this graphic, there's now a third entity that comes into play here. It's called the GDS. Okay. Again, don't get overly confused. The GDS powers these traditional managed solutions. The online booking tool is powered by the content of the GDS system. The travel agent is powered by the content of the GDS. The GDS is known as Global Travel Distribution System, or the GDS. They power the travel agency. So if you had a partnership with a GDS, but you had no relationship with a travel agency, you wouldn't have any business. You need to be involved with all three of those components, which GroundSpan is. So I hope that helps clarify it. But you've got, again, OBTs, TMCs, and the GDS. The GDS powers at some level the TMC and OBT. Where GroundSpan comes in, we are also powering the TMC and the OBT, because we don't need to go through the GDS to power it. We're powering that directly, and then we power the GDS. Again, a little bit confusing. Just know that GroundSpan is the engine that powers corporate travel to get to their corporate vendors. And here's some brands that may resonate when I talk about the OBT. Here's the leading brands, right? Neo, Concur, Spotnana, Navan, Deem, New Travel. Concur is the market leader by far. Neo is the American Express tool. But a lot of corporates are migrating more and more to these online booking tools. These are the leading brands that you may have heard your corporates talk about. On the travel agency side, oops, this is more familiar than I'm sure. You've got the American Express Travels, you've got the Carson Wagonleys, the CWTs, the BCDs, the Direct Travels, the FCMs. These are all the leading brands in the traditional travel agency TMC space. Okay, so these are just some brands. I'll talk more about these brands in a minute, but I wanted to put some color around what a TMC was versus, an OBT. And then last but not least, you've got GDS brands. You've got Sabre, Travelport, and Amadeus. There's 3 GDS systems. That's it. There's some little ones that are dying out, but there's 3 main ones that power all of corporate travel agencies and corporate online booking tools. Okay, so these are brands that you should start getting familiar with. So if one of your corporates says, hey, I booked through Sabre, now with GroundSpan, hey, you can book us through Sabre, right? And again, we'll talk more about that. I hope this little one-on-one helped before I kind of get into our tools, because if you don't understand some of this at a very low level or basic level, then it'll be hard to understand where GroundSpan value sits. All right, let's move on. All right, what is GroundSpan? Where do we fit in this world? Our mission is really simple. We want to establish centralized and efficient booking environments. And as I just talked about 2 seconds ago, that would be through the OBTs, the TMCs, and the GDSs. So we're integrating and creating these centralized booking solutions. We want to drive compliance to a corporate's preferred. We want to enhance a corporate's administration with e-receipting and reporting. And it's all about driving compliance to a corporate preferred vendor. So the thing, besides us, being the tool that kind of enables these corporations to book your services, it's very important to understand We are not a limo company. We are not owned by a limo company. We don't have investors who are limo companies. We're a neutral travel technology. We're integrated to our family of back offices, but also, 20 plus others, right? We are your ally in these corporates. We're not going into these corporates and saying, hey, don't use Tony's car service, use Josh's car service. We are trying to automate the existing relationships that you have and maximize the visibility of your services globally. Okay. It's very important to understand that. We're not a Black Lane. We're not one of these other emerging networks. We are not a fulfillment network. We aggregate brands for corporations. You still are the merchant of record. I'm not doing the billing and you're waiting to receive money from GroundSpan. You manage your client. You're allowed to speak to your client. We're automating the process and supplementing efficiency on booking and then some administration. So we are completely aligned at the hip when we work together within your corporates. Very, very important. And we've done this for years. You hear anything different than that in the market, call me any hour of the night because it's not true. That's what we do, and that's what we are anal about. And we're fortunate enough that we do so much volume that we will never pivot and become a competitor. Where a lot of companies that maybe start like GroundSpan pivot to be your competitor because they can't survive on $1 of booking like we do. Okay, so very important to understand. The other piece to understand is we are not a retail play. What do I mean by that? We're not like, just plug into GroundSpan and you guys are going to get millions of transactions. 98% of our implementations are corporations or travel agencies that are advising who their preferred vendors are. And we are enabling those preferred vendors, but we're maximizing the visibility of those preferred vendors in the areas they're supposed to be used. Okay, so, please don't come off this call thinking that you're going to plug into GroundSpan and we're going to generate $2 million of retail revenue. We have some of that, and there may be opportunities where we lean on some of you for that. But generally speaking, it's working with you, with your corporates that overlap in these TMCs, OBTs, and bringing another channel, another 2 channels that you can tell them that your services can be booked, right? So instead of just saying, book my website, book my mobile, call me, you're now going to say, book us through your travel agency, book us through your corporate online booking tool where all travel's booked, okay? Very important to understand our mission, very important to understand our boundaries and that we're an ally to you guys. No sales BS. We're an ally versus an enemy. Very important. All right. All that stuff, a lot I'm saying, obviously. We talked a lot about this corporate travel and the GDS and the OBT and the TMC. I want to be clear on this. GroundSpan is the only tool today in the market that is a neutral platform that integrates with the OBTs, again, multiple names, corporate online booking tools, could be sometimes CBT, the TMCs or travel agencies or travel management companies, and the GDSs, right? We're the only tool that integrates with those 3 different distribution channels and drives volumes to their preferred vendors, okay? No sales BS. There's nobody that does this in our space. As a result, we have preferred partners in all of the leading distribution channels. So I showed you some of these logos before when I was talking more generally, but GroundSpan today is the preferred partner of these leading brands. So for example, if one of your corporates uses Concur Travel to book air, hotel, and rent a car, you can now say to them, hey, we can now book car service through Concur. If they're using Agencia, same thing. If they're using a GDS, if they're an American Express corporate GBT corporate client, we are integrated and partnered with all these leading brands that if any of your clients are using or partner with these brands, we can now introduce car service bookings to your existing clients. And what I said earlier, conservatively, 70% of your business is going through a managed solution. And again, it goes up to 85% in some cases. But even at 70%, 70% of your client today is touching one of these brands. Okay, very important to understand. To demonstrate some of the success we're having, I want to just kind of give you a quick snapshot of the type of business that we're doing. Today, we have over 2,000 corporate accounts set up through GroundSpan. We have 25% of the Fortune 500. We're very strong in all the pharmas. So if any of you folks out there are working with the pharma and you're not set up with GroundSpan, that means something's disconnected. We should talk about that because we literally have the majority of the pharma brands, and you should be in there if you have a relationship with them. But we have a very good penetration within the corporate world, and we have thousands of vendors that we have access to. And again, as a reminder, when I say we have access to vendors, it's your brand, you're doing the billing, your relationship with the client. We're supplementing in the areas that we can bring value, which is automation and some administration tools. All right. Now let's get into the kind of nuts and bolts of the tools. So I kind of set up the market, a lot of things changing, a lot of centralization. I talked to you about corporate travel. I talked to you about corporate travel where, you know, there's gaps in the managed program where our tools can assist. We gave you some credibility points where we've got a lot of corporate accounts. Let's talk about the tools. So let's say off the call, you say, oh my God, I do have a client on Concur, or I have a client on Amex. Let me reach out to them. I want to show you what those tools would look like. Okay. So the first tool I want to talk to you about is the online corporate booking tool integration we have, the OBT tool, right? Again, I'm going to use the three names so they all start to click. But I'm not going to do a live demo. I'm just going to go through quickly so you get a snapshot. We can always give you further demos after the meeting. So I'm going to show you this is Concur. So Concur, I don't know the exact numbers, but at one point they were the 90% market share of online travel. It's changed a little. There's a lot of emerging brands, but they still are the significant market leader when it comes to corporate travel being booked online. GroundSpan is the only tool that is powering ground transportation for Concur. So you may not see our logos and, you know, all of our branding. I'm the plumbing in Concur to bring Concur clients to their preferred vendors. One of the ways to book is on the homepage. You click the icon and you have a very simple booking experience. You know, your request leveraging all of the shortcuts. So the benefit of Concur versus your website, they have legisting profiles, they have existing corporate addresses. We're pulling in any preferred hotel data, any existing flights, all that stuff is leverage versus a standalone website. That's why corporates want this consolidated. There's ease of book factors that can't be done going to a standalone website. The preferred vendors come back, it gets confirmed. There's also the ability in Concur to add ground to a flight, and that's what you're looking at here, right? At the end of the confirmation of the flight, would you like to add rent-a-car, hotel, car service now? When you click car service, we are bringing back only the preferred vendors of that corporate. You have a bunch of shortcuts, but once you select the flight that's been pre-booked, you then get the same confirmation flow. So Concur is short, sweet, and simple. It's integrated fully. As you can see, you don't see any GroundSpan logos or anything. We're powering Concur, okay? One of the confidential things, well, it's not really confidential because this is going to be, posted, is we are going to be releasing a new version of Concur, integration with Concur at the GBTA later in the summer. But Concur is live today. We have tens of thousands of bookings going through this a day. It is something that you really should think about introducing to your corporates, okay? So that is the OBT integrations. Now, again, I showed you before, there's many brands. Concur's the leader. That's why I showed it to you. But Spotnana is an emerging one. Citrix, Neo, these are the brands that you may hear. And when you see the presentation later, those brands are in there. The flow of those bookings works really the same. It's integrated. It's leveraging all of the existing corporate profiles. You have a request screen, a price screen, and a confirmation screen. So the flows are really all the same, whether it's Concur, Spotnana, or others, but they're all integrated, and we power all of those different brands that I showed you earlier. The other tool I want to show you is the GDS integration for our TMC partners. Remember what I said earlier, the GDS powers the TMCs. We are integrated with the GDS and the TMC to power car service bookings for both. So I'll show you what that looks like. It may be confusing, but we can go back to that beginning slide when you look at it so you can understand how all these pieces fit together. Making this more practical in thinking, the OBTs would be self-booking, so the traveler booking or their administrative assistant, where a GDS and a TMC would be more of a travel agent booking on behalf of somebody. That's kind of another way to look at the two channels. But what you see here is Sabre. These systems are really archaic. There are a lot of code. There are a lot of older language in development. They've been supposed to have died out 25 years ago. They're not dying out. They're just being used differently. One of the ways they're being used differently is how we're integrated. So if somebody's on Sabre, we give them the application. Again, corporate specific, vendor preferred. You launch GroundSpan, the tool pops up. We pull out of the GDS all of the flights, hotels, profile data, anything we can grab in this GDS system, we pull into the booking. And you can see there, it's a little small, but you'll see the flights, hotels, previous locations. All of that is being pulled into GroundSpan. Again, you search for the preferred vendors. The vendors come back. You put additional information, and then it gets confirmed. Once it gets confirmed, it gets written back into the GDS. Okay. So the benefit of the GDS is you have an agent now who can book this stuff in less than 2 minutes. Really, 1.5 minutes is what we're clocking on standard bookings. It's part of the itinerary. We're leveraging flight and hotel data. And you can see right here, it's going right back into the system that travel agency is working in. It's a little hieroglyphic, but you can see this OTH segment 3, is that ground transportation booking that we simulated. All right. So we went quickly over the online booking tool, Concur, because they're the leader. And then I showed you the GDS TMC interface, which is Sabre, but there's also Amadeus and Travelport. Again, the flows are very similar, but these are the two leaders, especially in the US, and you'll see these being used in more of your clients than not. So again, going back to what I said earlier, 70% of your clients are having managed travel. If they have managed travel, these interfaces are at play someplace. So if I can get you asking these questions after this meeting, that's a huge win for all of us. All right, let's go back to the reservation services. I'm not going to go into the other stuff because, I want to focus really on the two channels that may be brand new to you. But we do have other booking tools as well. We have some clients that want us to have a private labeled multi-vendor website that's fully integrated with their intranet. We've got a lot of bells and whistles on that site that really can't be done for a one vendor site. So we do have standalone web tools that we roll out to corporates as well. We've got different integrations with mobile applications. We've got web-based call centers. We even have different products for meeting and events and in-house fleet stuff. But we have a lot of reservation services. What we're looking to do for you is really broaden the funnel on the options that your corporates can book you, right? So I'm going to jump back fast. But when I originally showed you Corporate Travel 101, today you guys are talking about 3 channels that a corporate traveler or somebody can make a booking through you. What we want to do now is broaden that funnel and include corporate online booking tools, OBTs, and TMCs. You can do that with the integration we have at Limo Anywhere. You can do that with the partnerships that I have already. We got to start now talking about this to existing corporates. So it's about broadening your funnel, getting you max visibility, and giving you bookings that don't require manual intervention. All right, I'm jumping backwards. All right, so that's the red services. We went over a lot. I'm going to recap it at the end, but hopefully the takeaway you have is we can support you in these additional channels. It's efficient. It gives you better visibility, and it can help you scale within your existing accounts. Another tool that I want to mention to you is in our administrative and coordination toolbox, right? It's this e-receipting piece. And I mentioned earlier in our mission, we want to create efficient booking environments. We want to drive compliance, but we also want to assist in some administrative capacity to make this a more scalable process for you, for corporates, and for travelers. Concur e-receipt is an under-leveraged benefit in our space. What is Concur e-receipt? Concur, and this gets a little confusing again, Concur has 2 faces, Concur Travel and then Concur Expense. GroundSpan is integrated in Concur Travel. That's where the booking is being made, but we're also integrated in Concur Expense. Most of the corporates that are on Concur Travel will also be on Concur Expense. Okay. So what does that mean? somebody makes a booking through GroundSpan, through you folks. At the end, you're still merchant of record. We don't change that. You close your trip. At the end of it, you send us your closeout data, itemized. We then e-receipt it through our integration to Concur Expense. And now your receipts are in their expense tool. They're itemized. They're reportable to the corporate. The process for your traveler is not about scanning receipts or uploading emails. It flows in automatically and it aligns with the rest of travel. So if you look at a typical corporation who's on a Concur Expense, their hotels on e-receipt, their air's on e-receipt, you know, their rent-a-cars on e-receipt, but our industry isn't. And there's reasons for that. I won't go into today, but because my relationship with Concur is strong, we got access to, you know, an integration API that allows this access that we need to be able to e-receipt on your behalf. Okay. So again, bookings made through Concur, through the TMC, you get your confirmations, all your pricing comes through, you execute your job no different than you normally would, you close it out. After closeout, Limo Anywhere is sending us this closeout data, and we're uploading it, obviously encrypted and all PCI, all that kind of data, you know, protection stuff's in place. We upload that to Concur e-receipt. Now you have a client that can book and receipt and book their preferred vendor in a very efficient flow. I hope that makes sense. All right. The commercials. Let's talk a little bit about this. So today I talked about, you know, integrating into GroundSpan. Look, the heavy lifting's been done already. Limo Anywhere and GroundSpan have integrated my engines into the back office of Limo Anywhere. So that is done already. So that's great news. But there's a nominal setup fee to enable, you know, you for a specific corporate account. We have volume-based transaction fee per booking fees. It's a combination of a Limo Anywhere fee, and it varies based on volumes and stuff like that. That's why I don't have a number on here. I'm not trying to be cute. You know, if we go live, we'll figure that number out. And then we have a monthly maintenance, and we have our standard distribution agreement. We also have, you know, other account reports that we can send you, but there are fees for that. You probably don't need that at this stage. But if you wanted me to, let's say you had 100 accounts with us, you wanted me to summarize all 100 of your accounts and analyze all the pickups, the drop-offs, the key travelers, we have a report that we can give you that looks at all the accounts that you have through GroundSpan. But for the reservation services only, which gets you access to every channel. Now, when I say access, I want to hit it over the head again. It doesn't mean you're live and every one of those channels can book you. We now have to go fishing with you, looking for corporate accounts that use you or existing corporate accounts that are only booking you through certain direct channels and expand your visibility so somebody in London now can see your operation no matter where you are, wherever they're being booked, okay? So again, it's not just turn it on and you're live in every channel. The integration's in place for every channel. The integration's in place with Limo Anywhere. We have to do account-specific setup, okay? If you want to add e-receipt services to the reservations, then there's a small subscription fee, you know, for that e-receipt services. And again, volume-based. But those are the only two fees, right, you know, that exist to get live on GroundSpan. Now, our transaction fee, I've done this analysis. Our transaction fee is less cost than a phoned-in booking and an emailed-in booking, okay? Some of the larger vendors who have bigger call centers are actually starting to work with GroundSpan to move accounts from their call center to GroundSpan because our per booking transaction fee is less than the cost of having an extra body there. Now, look, I'm not saying go let go of your people or anything like that, but you can scale now with the same team that you have, use those people for more important QA jobs versus a standard downtown to airport pickup, right? Let's at least try to get the 80% of the easy bookings done electronically for you. Then your team can be used for more productive benefits than taking a booking from, you know, LaGuardia to, you know, New York. Again, you still want to have the personal relationship. I'm not saying you stop doing that, but we want to make it more efficient for you to grow with the existing team. Okay. Let's talk about the setup. it really is painless. And I said the heavy lifting's been done, right? We've integrated with Limo Anywhere. So what we have to do is identify that key corporate account or key partnership you have. And we have to work with Limo Anywhere. And we've got, or you guys, if you're managing your own site, and we've got to enable the connection in Limo Anywhere to GroundSpan. Really painless. Then we got to, in GroundSpan, set up your company ID and the corporate account number. You got to make sure that your flat rates are loaded. The world is changing, right? Where before pricing didn't matter. It doesn't matter as much as maybe I'm saying, but it matters in the sense that all of these channels need a price before book. So all your negotiated rates need to be in Limo Anywhere so we can pull them. We do have other hourly and other ways to mask pricing if some of your clients don't want it. But really what we need from you is to make sure your rates are loaded and you appear in as many searches for your client as possible. And we will work with you to add areas and stuff like that, but you need to, load your flat rates to start. We will also work with you about an auto confirm threshold. We need to make sure that anything above a certain threshold, you're going to auto confirm. So when an agent makes a booking, 2 weeks in advance or something, or 24 hours in advance, they get an instant confirmation and they're not sitting there waiting for a response. So we'll work with you on that. Complete flexibility, completely driven by you. We'll then do all the setup, we'll test, and then we'll go live with the agency or the corporate or the OBT or all the channels. I would say, honestly, 98% of our implementations are agency and OBT. And if you remember that original visual I showed you with the chart, those are the two managed travel areas, online booking tools and the travel agency. We usually go live in both with most of our accounts. I'm talking like maybe even 99.9. I can't think of any off the top of my head where we just go live online and not offline. The process that gets set up is kind of driven by the TMCs, the travel agencies. It typically takes 2 to 4 weeks because they got to do testing and stuff like that. If we have a fire drill, we could move the needle faster. But expectation-wise with a client, that's what you should say. And we usually come in under that. But some of that timeline is on the agency side, them doing their testing. But it's a very painless setup for you guys. All right, what's the benefits of all this? Why should you, start pushing these additional channels? Obviously, we talked about it already. It opens up this funnel approach to the booking channels and gives you more visibility within your corporate accounts, right? We want to make sure that not just your local office knows who you are. We want to make sure that random traveler coming from whatever market who travels twice a year knows that you're the preferred vendor in that market. So right out of the gate, your biggest visibility is you are getting access to every desktop within that corporation as soon as they do a price search in your area or wherever your coverage is, okay? Very important piece of this puzzle. The other benefit is there's no manual work. We're completely integrated with Limo Anywhere. You don't have to look at emails and, oh, this address is funky. Let me Google it. All this stuff is validated. These bookings are coming to you validated with the right info. You're not getting crap garbage data from us, so you don't have to sit there and rekey everything over. So it minimizes your manual work on bookings, okay? The other thing is when we talk about e-receipting, there's a seamless process on your side and their side. A lot of times what we hear from vendors is we send out an email from our system automatically, but every travel manager calls us or a traveler calls us looking for that, email. So you waste time sending the same email 5 times. With Concur Expense, when it's there, it's there. They'll see it. They're not going to call you and waste your time for sending out additional emails of the same stuff. And then, the reduced cost per booking is real. Now, if you're a smaller vendor, it may not feel the same way as a bigger vendor, but we're seeing on average anywhere between $10 to $12 for a booking when it's handled manually. And again, if you're a small operation, you're not going to relieve staff or anything, but you can reallocate them for purposes that are more productive and more focused on growing your business and other things along those lines. So it's about efficiencies, better data coming across, accuracy of pricing, higher visibility within your corporate accounts, seamless e-receipting and less after call work with receipts, and then a reduced cost. Those are the key benefits. Look, there's others as well, but these are the ones that I know will resonate with you folks the most. All right. I know everyone's head spinning. We went through a ton of stuff in a very quick period of time. Again, we're here for follow-up meetings. We're here to do additional demos if you think it helps. Sorry, I got to take a quick drink. But if all the things I said to you, you want to walk away with one thing is, look, don't sweat the details. Don't worry about all the details. But I think it is important for you to understand what a TMC is versus an OBT versus a GDS. And I hope that visual I gave you helps you with that. But even if you don't know that, it's okay. But what you need to walk away from this meeting, hopefully, and I'm not meaning that a pushy way, is you're going to start talking to your corporates about, hey, Mr. Corporate, you can now book me through your online travel tool. Who do you use? You can start booking me through your travel agency. Hey, who's your travel agency partner? So the bottom line on this is you don't need to understand all the details and all the heavy lifting that we do. You need to start talking about this differently, talking to your clients differently than you maybe have in the past. And the reason is all other vendors are doing this. The Ubers for business of the world, they're out there selling additional features, right? You need to kind of keep up with the thinking that's going on in travel and let these folks know if they want you in these channels, you're there, right? So again, my bottom line to you is after this call, don't worry about all the details. Don't worry about getting screenshots if you don't want it. Worry about one thing. Put it in your presentations that you're now available through travel agencies, corporate online booking tools. Start asking the question who they're on. Would that be of interest? When you get a bite, you bridge them to GroundSpan. We'll do a joint call with it there. We're there to represent you. We're an extension of you. We're not a competitor. We're not bringing in other vendors. That's what you should do. Start talking about it. Get a bite, bring us in, and then from there, we'll do all the heavy lifting. So if anything you remember from this meeting, it's let's start thinking of the reservation channels differently, start asking the questions, start introducing this to your corporates, because I'm telling you, they're thinking about it, and at least 70% of them are already booking travel through these channels that I'm talking to you about. Okay? All right. What's next steps? First of all, you guys have to step back and digest this. I'm sure a bunch of you have questions. I don't looking at the chat. I don't see any questions here, but you can always follow up after. So first thing is, look, just digest this. Understand kind of after you see this presentation what these different channels represent and how they fit in your world. If you have any additional questions, hit us up at support@GroundSpan. My personal email's there. Ketna's is as well. You can always email us directly. I would CC support also because it goes to a broader team than just us two. And if you have an emergency, we make sure that more than two sets of eyeballs are looking at it, right? So hit us up at support. Again, you can hit us up on direct emails. But I would sit back and start thinking about your existing accounts, start asking the questions, start targeting accounts that we can introduce these tools to, pull us in when needed. We'll send you a distribution agreement. And then we'll, the next step after, obviously that, once we get an account that's on the hook that wants to move forward, we can set up, the accounts in GroundSpan. We can set up you tomorrow if you want and start the setup process. If you don't have a corporate account that wants you immediately through GroundSpan, we can still set you up. Some of these booking monthly minimums and stuff will still pertain to you. My recommendation is get a bite and then we can start setting you up. But if, all you guys chase us tomorrow and you want to be set up on GroundSpan, no problem, do that. We'll go through the commercials with you, but just understand expectation-wise, it's not we plug you in and all of a sudden all new bookings are flowing to you guys. We're not a retail portal. We're a corporate specific portal. We will work with you to figure out where we go and how do we sell these tools together. But just please have that expectation accurate. But again, you want to get set up before there's a client knocking on your door, we're ready to do it. If you want to work together to identify some key clients, we're willing to do that for you as well. Okay. So Josh, that really kind of takes me to the end. There's other things, but I think we hit the key subjects. I don't know if this session has, Q&A and stuff like that, but I've gone through all kind of the hot spots that I wanted to touch on. And, I think any more, maybe overkill. Maybe that's we'll do GroundSpan 2.0 once we get a lot of these guys set up.
Sure. Well, Tony, thank you for your time today. And we do have a few questions if you've got a few minutes for a couple.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
One is, how much does it cost to get set up?
Yeah. So I'll go back to the slides so we have a visual. We have a couple different tools, right? So there's two different commercials. There's a nominal setup fee. It's depending on each vendor. It varies. So I don't want to just give you a number, but there'll be a setup fee. There'll then be a transaction fee based on volume. So it could be anywhere between $4 to $5. I said the wrong numbers, so that it was an accident. It's $4 to $5 depending on volumes and type of bookings and all that stuff. It only is billed on a completed booking. Okay, so you're not getting dinged on 17 modifications. There's a small cancellation fee as well. There's a monthly maintenance, and then there's a contract. So nominal fees to get set up, and then it's additional transaction fees based on success.
Great. And then Lars asks, do corporate clients that are booking have the ability to compare prices for all companies in the given marketplace?
Yes, but only companies that are considered their preferred. And this is a very important piece, and this is what differentiates us from the rest of the world. Anyone that does something similar to us. We're going to corporation ABC. They may say, I have these 3 preferred vendors. If those 3 preferred vendors service New York and the client says that they should show up in New York, then when they search LaGuardia to Manhattan, those 3 vendors will show up. However, there's tools for you as a vendor. If you're the only one to show up in New York, the client can say, okay, vendor 1 shows up in New York, vendor 2 shows up in Boston, vendor 3 shows up in London. So there's rules that we can set up per client, corporate client direction to make sure that each vendor is only showing up in the right areas. But the general answer to your question is yes, if the corporate approves it, and it's only the preferred vendors that the corporate approves. We will never introduce a random vendor into your corporate relationships.
Great. And then one more question. With the fixed pricing, do you require fixed pricing to be set up? And if so, can this be done by distance?
So look, your pricing is your relationship with your client. So if your client's okay doing hourly pricing, then we can pull your hourly pricing into the booking experience. If Limo Anywhere calculates your price by mileage, then Limo Anywhere is going to send us the final calculated rate. So whatever your client is happy with from your rates, we are just mirroring that. What I was saying before about loading your rates, one of the things, just being transparent, my nature, is a lot of Limo Anywhere vendors do not have a very robust set of rates set up in Limo Anywhere. And the reason why I mention that is if somebody's searching, New York market, and we all know you service New York, but you didn't put a rate in for Ramsey, New Jersey to Newark, and we know you service that, you will not come up as a bookable option. So it's to your advantage, to your benefit, to make your prices within Limo Anywhere as robust as they can be in the markets you serve. Now, there are other ways to handle it if you don't have that level of complexity within your rates. But generally speaking, whatever rates your client agrees to, we're mirroring them. We're not marking them up. Remember, I'm not merchant of record. I'm simply automating the booking to your client. So whatever rates they agree, we're going to mimic in the tool. But we strongly advise that you enhance your rate database for the clients that are coming through GroundSpan, so your territory and your availability is at a max level. Hope that made sense.
That's great. Well, thank
Any
you
other
everyone
questions?
for.
I'm trying to check the chat.
I think that covers everything in the chat, and everyone can follow up after the fact.